So, folks, there is this guy named Zohran Mamdani. You might have heard of him. We've talked about him a fair bit on this channel lately. He's running to be mayor of New York City, the city of Broadway. And he's doing pretty well. He made it through the primary process and like overwhelmingly defeated Andrew Cuomo. You know, the Democratic machine that was endorsed by Bill Clinton, of all people, and Alan Dershowitz, of all people. Just an Avengers-like assembly of people who are BFFs with Jeffrey Epstein. And Zoran Mamdani he's doing well. Like, he's continuing to campaign. It's been really great. Let's take a look at how he's doing. All right, he put out a video just the other day. Let's take a look at it.
1 week ago, we shocked the establishment and redrew the political map with a campaign relentlessly focused on the needs of working people. Since then, a lot of people have asked me if I was surprised by the results. In some ways, I was. We always thought our victory would come after multiple rounds of ranked choice voting. So when we got more first-round votes than Eric Adams got in 7 rounds in the last election, it was astonishing. But in other ways, this was always the plan. We wanted to rebuild a coalition that had frayed over years of disappointment and neglect, to win people back to a Democratic Party that puts working people first. So let's break it down. Last November, New York City saw some of the biggest shifts towards Donald Trump of anywhere in the country. Much of it took place in working class and immigrant neighborhoods. A few days after the election, we went to Hillside Avenue in Queens and Fordham Road in the Bronx, not to lecture, but to listen. And what we heard was a desire to bring down the cost of living. That was our focus, and many of those voters came back. Brighton Beach went for Trump by 44 points. Last week, we won it by 16. College Point...
Do you guys have any idea? Like, that is huge. That is huge. Now, you might say, well, okay, but the Trump vote was in the general election. This was in a Democratic primary. Understand that, like, if this was a more conservative area, they would have gone with the more conservative Democratic candidate. It's a huge win when we see that this is the actual breakdown.
It was a plus 11 Trump neighborhood. We took it by 8 points. We saw similar or even bigger swings in Bath Beach, Astoria Heights, and the North Shore of Staten Island. The headline is clear. We can win back voters many have written off if we give them something to vote for, not just tell them what to be against. When Eric Adams eked out a win by 7,000 votes 4 years ago, he called it a mandate and pronounced himself the new face of the Democratic Party. Even then, it was a little ridiculous. But in some neighborhoods, he did put up impressive margins. Take Flatbush, for example. Eric Adams dominated there, double digits ahead of his next rival. On Tuesday, there was also a double-digit victory, except it was for us, over Andrew Cuomo. We flipped Crown Heights by 45 points, North Corona by 33, and Jamaica by a staggering 57 points.
Holy shit. Holy shit. You flipped Jamaica by 57 points? That's nuts.
These are the outer borough voters that Eric Adams said he'd bring with him to City Hall. He served as donors instead.
Okay, I need to be completely transparent with you guys. If I am an establishment Democrat and I see this breakdown come out, and not only do I see these internal numbers come out, but like Zoran Mamdani is using his political machine to put out a video clearly explaining them, I start wetting my pants a little bit if I'm a mainstream Democratic consultant, because this man's given the game away. He's given the game away, and that's really, really, really bad news for establishment Dem. This is one of the reasons why, folks, I've been talking a little bit more about www.runforsomething.net. It's because it is an organization dedicated to helping you guys, we the people, run for political office. And we need more people to step up to the plate and run for office right now. Largely because the Democratic Party, the Democratic establishment, has never been more vulnerable to progressive messaging than it is right now. They are weak, they are cowardly, and we need to remove them for our own survival. DNC consultants and establishment politicians should be quaking in their boots.
Whether we're talking about young voters, older voters, or just plain disaffected New Yorkers, no campaign in recent history has been as successful at driving new voter registrations, especially in the 100 days before the election. Just take a look at this graph. According to the Times, in the 14 days before the registration deadline, about 37,000 people registered to vote. That's over 10 times the number of new registrations over the same period of time in the 2021 mayoral primary. As a result, we won big with zero prime voters, New Yorkers who had not voted in any recent mayoral primary. For instance, in Gravesend, at least...
This is, by the way, this is the exact strategy the Democratic Party should be pursuing in the general. He overwhelmingly won by getting people excited and involved in the democratic process. Do you guys have any idea how hard it is to get people to vote in a primary? It's really difficult. It's really hard. And he's out there making it happen. Okay? What was that site again? Here, let me type it out. www.runforsomething.net. There we go.
32% of all voters were first-time primary voters. Most campaigns focus on triple primes, New Yorkers who voted in the last 3 primaries. But this strategy ignores most of our city. Yet we knew that we could turn them out if they saw themselves in our policies. We ran a campaign that tried to talk to every New Yorker. Whether I could speak their language,
आपकी वजह से हमने $8 million रेज किया है, 6 लाख से ज्यादा दरवाजे खटखटाए हैं,
or just tried.
que se comprometa al bienestar.
All the words are new! And the coalition that came out on Tuesday reflected the mosaic of these 5 boroughs. We won South Asian neighborhoods by huge margins in places like City Line, Ozone Park, Jamaica Hills. We won Latino neighborhoods like Corona, Washington Heights, Pelham Bay, and Woodhaven. We won many of the same Chinese voters that turned out for Trump in Flushing, Chinatown, and Bensonhurst. And in the final months of the campaign, we narrowed Andrew Cuomo's once sizable lead with black voters, outright winning young black New Yorkers and neighborhoods like Harlem and Flatbush. Andrew Cuomo and his super PAC spent more than $31 million. That's about $87 per vote. We were focused on affordability, and it cost us only $19 per vote. But what you did for us was worth so much more than what money could buy. The result? We shattered everyone's expectations, including our own. A Cuomo spokesperson put it best, saying they had not foreseen our ability to, quote, expand the electorate in such a way that no turnout model or poll was able to capture. Conventional wisdom says the left can only win low turnout elections. We rewrote the rule book by, get this, talking to New Yorkers. Politics in this city won't ever be the same, and it's all thanks to you. The next chapter begins today, New York.
He's such a cutie patootie. He's such a cutie patootie. Which is why, if you're an establishment Dem, you are terrified. If you're a Republican, you are racist and infuriated about Zohran Mamdani. And what I mean by that is that the President of the United States today threatened to have Zoran Mamdani arrested and deported.
Your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon, Zoran Mandani, who in his nomination speech said he will defy...
Man, also, can we just pause and take a moment? How is it difficult to pronounce Zoran Mamdani? It's not a hard name to pronounce. It's a 2-syllable name. It's like not being able to say the name Blake or Nora. Are you kidding me? It's not a difficult name. Yeah, I saw a Fox News contributor, not a Fox News contributor. I saw a Fox News host saying that it was too hard to say Zoran, and so he started calling him Zorro. Zorro Mamdani. These people are just so racist, they can't even be bothered to string 2 syllables together.
ICE and will not allow...
And I know that they don't want to say it properly, but they don't want to say it because they're racist.
ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zohran Mandani.
Well then,
God. Also, Zoran Mamdani is not a communist.
we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this.
See, I'm sorry. We got caught up in the semantics.
Said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zohran Mandani.
Well then, we'll have to arrest him. Look,
I'm sorry. He has the right to actually do that. That he has the right and is enough of a leader to actually stand up to bullies.
we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation. We send him money. We send him all the things that he needs to run a government. And by the way, they get about 3 times what you get, Ron. If you look at the per capita, Florida gets 1/3 of what New York gets in terms of the numbers. Why don't you give us those numbers?
Yeah, well,
because that's what we should send him.
Yeah, well, like sometimes people say Florida gets more because they count Social Security recipients, but that's not money to the state. Those are seniors that live here. If they moved to North Carolina, you could count it there. So it has no interaction with the state government. They get more in the city and state governments than we get.
Right, substantially. We're going to be watching that very carefully, and a lot of people are saying he's here illegally. He's, we're going to look at everything, and ideally, he's going to turn out to be much less than a communist. But right now, he's a communist. That's not a socialist.
Your beloved New York City.
Yeah, so that is the president of the United States threatening to jail his opponents based on their political ideologies. That's that is the president of the land of the free, supposedly, doing that. Very, very cool. Super neat.
City may.
God, sorry, I accidentally clicked on that. Here was Zoran Mamdani's response, by the way. The president of the United States just threatened to have me arrested, stripped of my citizenship, and put in a deportation camp and deported.
I have to point out that the press conference where the president of the U.S. threatened to jail a candidate for mayor of New York took place in a literal concentration camp in bumfuck Florida.
That's true. It did. And we'll talk about that concentration camp later. The president of the United States just threatened to have me arrested, stripped of my citizenship, put in a detention camp, and deported. Not because I have broken any law, but because I will refuse to let ICE terrorize our city. His statements don't just represent an attack on our democracy, but an attempt to send a message to every New Yorker who refuses to hide in the shadows. If you speak up, they will come for you. We will not accept this intimidation. That Trump included praise for Eric Adams and his authoritarian threats is unsurprising, but highlights the urgency of bringing an end to this mayor's time in City Hall. At the very moment when MAGA Republicans are attempting to destroy the social safety net, kick millions of New Yorkers off of healthcare, and enrich their billionaire donors at the expense of working families, it is a scandal that Eric Adams echoes this president's division, distraction, and hate. Voters will resoundingly reject it in November. And this is what we need right now, folks. We need people to stand strong in the face of fascism. We need people to meet that fascism with organizing. And that is exactly what the Zoran Mamdani campaign is doing. They are recognizing the fundamental premise at play in our political moment. And that is one side has people and the other side has money. And we must out-organize their money. That is the entire name of the game for the next, 3.5 to, 8 years. We have to out-organize them and utterly and completely destroy the viability of the Republican Party. We need people with spines. We need people who believe in their principles. We need people who are willing to fight for the downtrodden, fight for the working class in this society, and to stand up in the face of billionaire power and say, no more. No more. We will not be for sale. They threw the world's richest man at Wisconsin in order to try and buy our elections. And the people of Wisconsin said no. The richest assholes in this country threw Andrew Cuomo at the people of New York City, and they said no. So we must continue to organize, and we must be able to meet these assholes wherever they choose to try and plant their flag, to similarly rise up and say, no, that's our job.
If Trump tried to arrest and deport him, it would get the fence-sitting libs to at least move to the point of maybe Trump bad.
I mean, the fence-sitting libs are already at the point of Trump bad. But I genuinely, and this is my unabashed take here, if Zoran Mamdani is arrested by the U.S. government, there needs to be a level of mass unrest in this country, a level of mass protest, the likes of which we have never seen. Because if they can disappear, the person who is most likely to become the next mayor of New York City, they can disappear anybody. They will disappear anybody. And so if that happens, we are in like a time where we need to actually like get up off our asses. It's not enough to just call members of Congress anymore. It's time to get in the streets, make noise, and like cause enough disruption in this society where like that is rectified. Okay? My fear is that if Zoran gets yoinked, establishment Dems will do the strongly worded letter routine and secretly be thankful he's gone. The issue is like I just don't think that can work. Like that needs to be our storming of the Bastille moment. That is the levee of our democracy utterly and irrevocably breaking, and we need to go and fix it. We need to go and fix that mistake, lest like the flood of fascism kill us all. Okay? No. It's not. Hey, like, oh well, let's wait and see what Democratic leaders. No, we will need to do that ourselves. Like I see you guys being like, oh no, they're not going to do anything. That's too fucking bad because it's not their decision on whether or not to do anything anymore. It's ours. Okay. When we're talking about like if they arrest Zoran Mamdani, no, that it's now our job. It's now our job to go out on the streets and cause such a level of unrest that we fix the problem. It needs to be like a South Korea like parliament situation, if you guys understand what I mean by that. It needs to be that we do something about it, and it cannot be dependent on spineless dipshits in the Democratic Party. They will have ceded their control, ceded their ability to say, "Oh no, don't do that." That ship will have sailed. We have to take a general strike seriously as well. I mean, that is in my mind the entire purpose of us building up mass demonstrations with the No Kings protest, with the, Good Trouble Lives On protest on July 17th. Mark your calendars. The entire purpose of those mass demonstrations is to make it easier and more viable to organize a large number of people to do a peaceful disruption like a work stoppage. But we need to get closer to that. And honestly, with the level of disruption that would be necessary if the state seizes Zoran Mamdani, we are looking at the possibility of a spontaneous, national, spontaneous national strike. I mean, like, this is the largest protesting muscle that has been flexed in American history in quite some time. Yeah, take your Stop the Bleed classes now, folks. Most Astros turf demonstrations ever? Nah. If we don't do the organizing now, we'll end up just like all the other strikes that pop out of nowhere every so often. Yeah, I mean, but like the entire issue is like you get enough people involved in protesting, in taking time off to protest, that eventually they become more comfortable taking work off to protest. Kind of skeptical of oh my God, you guys understand what I'm saying, right? You guys understand that I'm saying the planned protests are to grow an ability to do larger protest actions, right? You guys get that. And all I'm saying is in the process of building that up, there is a possibility of sporadic, work stoppages, sporadic strikes. And in the chaos of that kind of disruption, that type of work stoppage becomes more likely. I'm not saying it's super likely. I'm just saying it's a possibility that is much closer to being a reality than it was, a year ago. We're exercising our muscle that will get us closer to that point. But Donald Trump is not the only person super afraid of Zoran Mamdani. Let's take a look here at one Steven Crowder and his idea about how communism works. And I'm excited to take this journey into Insanityville with all of you. So here we go.
We have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right, or whether it's the end goal of seizing the means of production, where we do not have the same level of support at this very moment.
So just to be clear, seizing the means of production, that is the Communist Manifesto. That is...
Yeah, but I'm really looking forward to this, guys. I don't think Steven Crowder knows what communism is.
Value in contrast, right? Remember I told you were going to have 8 years of Obama, 4 years of Donald Trump, and then when we had 4 years of Joe Biden, I said just the contrast is what's most valuable. And that's why Trump has a really good chance of winning. And I hope that he continues this contrast because we see the difference, honestly, faster than we thought it would come to fruition. 8, 4, 4, so 12 years of basically one administration, Obama and Biden. It's an extension of the same. And one of these things is not like the other. The same can be said for New York City because we are looking at an actual communist who wants to take over.
Well, to be clear, he calls himself a socialist, and there may be a meaningful distinction between those two things.
A city that is already struggling, make it worse, and you'll have a timeline that will exist at the same period of time that Donald Trump is taking the country in the exact opposite direction. None of these facts or individual, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. Context matters. I actually think there's a real silver lining here if Mamdani happens to win.
Zoran is a f***ing commie. Oh, you thought New York was bad before. His ideas on policy.
I can just... Even their attempts to make him look bad still include scenes like this where it's like, oh, wait, taxing the rich. That, okay, all right. Building affordable housing. Ooh, freezing the rent. City-owned grocery stores. Free child care, be afraid. Fast buses. Woo! You'll get to work more on time. Woo!
South straight out of Zimbabwe. Will lips don't care about that.
Oh, good. The racism. Also, I just have to ask.
About before his ideas on policy, South straight out of Zimbabwe.
So, to be clear here, you think these policies, these policies are what is happening in Zimbabwe? Zimbabwe has fast, free buses, free childcare, city-owned grocery stores, frozen rent, affordable housing, and taxes the wealthiest people in their society. I don't think that's true at all. But you know, if it is, good for Zimbabwe. Or, as the song says, Zimbabwe.
Policy, South straight out of Zimbabwe.
That's fun.
It's a liberal pronunciation of Zimbabwe.
It is. You have to make it fit.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, a lot of people don't realize this, and we talked about this when we covered this on election night. We said, you know, if Donald Trump is within 16 points, I believe, was the metric in New York, we said that would be historic. That would be better than anyone since George Bush Sr., and that would be a pretty good indicator that he's going to win the popular vote. And we had some people here who, I mean, it cost us millions of dollars, who their analytics were right. We were correct. We were also correct in calling Georgia. So a big story from that election that many people may have missed is that the biggest swing that took place.
Oh, God, just Kenny. I can't even begin to rank the Steven Crowder cast on a scale of fascism. I will note that they appear to have fired the producer that they all called Quarter Black. So, yeah, that's an interesting development in the Steven Crowder universe.
For Donald Trump was actually urban areas. Urban areas. That's where he improved the most by around 8% on average. Gotcha. And that happened because of policies.
Yeah, Steven Crowder does look increasingly divorced, and I'm not sure how that's possible since I'm pretty sure he's still in the process of getting his first divorce.
That people like Mamdani want to put on steroids. So if you missed this last week, Zohran Mamdani, he won the New York City, the Democratic primary. And there's going to be a showdown, him, Eric Adams, and Cuomo. It seems like Mamdani is the clear favorite right now. So when you understand that Stalin Mamdani would be awful for New York, and if you also agree with me that...
Wait, but why? You haven't made the argument that about why he would be bad.
I don't really care about New York anymore. At the same time as the country improves, then it becomes a cautionary tale like Detroit. It becomes a cautionary tale like California, and people remember.
Marauding Army, I don't know if his dad is his segment producer, but I know that his dad, like, funds his show. you know? So maybe business partner? I don't know. He periodically has his dad on the show.
Remember it. So let's first get to the problems presented by Mamdani's blatant love and leaning in towards socialism.
So when people say democratic socialist, right? And I'm curious what you think this means. I mean, do you like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism. And
Based. Wow.
I think ultimately the definition for me of why I call myself a democratic socialist is the words of Dr. King.
Crowder hates socialism so vehemently because his soon-to-be ex-wife is in the process of seizing at least half of the means of his production law.
It's true. Very knifey duck. Thank you for the $5 dono.
He said, call it democracy.
Also, can we just note again, and I know I think I've already talked about this interview in particular, but like he's so good at this. He's like, yeah, I have critiques of capitalism, much like Martin Luther King Jr. did. You know, like amazing connection to someone that is basically universally understood in all non-fucking weirdo circles to be like a cool dude that actually was onto something there, was kind of cooking, actually.
Democracy, or call it democratic socialism, there must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of
in New York
and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using
incredible stuff. Even Steven Crowder can't make him look bad. It's fucking incredible. Yeah, man, play more of his ads on your channel. You'll radicalize your conservative audience into being socialists in no time. Let's go.
Pause. Yeah, well, that's because in New York, the price of milk for a gallon is $5.93 right now. It's $4 in the rest of the country. Eggs. Rest of the country, $4.50. In New York, $7.
Yeah, so maybe the guy campaigning on cheaper groceries is kind of onto something, right? Maybe the socialist is kind of onto something, right?
To be clear. So when he's complaining about the cost, like, well, yeah, the costs in your city, and has that city been a bastion of fiscal conservatism? Oh, keep doing more of it? Okay, let's see how that works out.
Wait, you have to make an argument. Your argument is just fiscal conservatism will surely bring down the prices, when like fiscal conservatism doesn't lead to that. Fiscal conservatism balloons prices for things. Oh God!
Are $7 eggs expensive compared to a few years ago?
That would seem so. Yes.
Because I feel like
wait, who's this guy?
Everything in New York is always more expensive.
It's always more expensive.
Isn't it?
It's always more expensive, and it's been a less.
Yeah, almost like logistical concerns in a city make the prices go up.
Utopia for quite a while, really. So
that even might be a lie.
One of the most overtaxed people in the country, and they're losing people because of the taxes. $4.50 for eggs across the country, $6.99.
Yeah, because the rich people are moving out of New York City because of the higher prices of eggs. You know, typically that's what, you know, the people that I know who are millionaires, I don't know anyone who are millionaires, but if I imagine a millionaire, I don't imagine they're particularly upset about the price of eggs being $1 or $2 higher than usual because they have $1 million. That is enough for at least 2 dozen eggs.
In New York City. Let's continue with more propaganda from this guy, but it's good for us.
Pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day, depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way.
Yeah, that is kind of bullshit, isn't it? Interesting that you paused right in the middle of him complaining about how the fact that in New York City, you can have surge pricing that makes a product more expensive depending on the time of day it is. Like, that's crazy. That's nuts. That should be illegal. That is a conservative policy.
I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores.
Hell yeah.
It's like a public option for produce.
Breadlines.
We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned.
Well, wait. No, people would still have the option of going to a different grocery store. It's not bread lines. And I would just like to point out, bread lines form because people can't get bread, right? Like if you have a bread line, it's because bread is being given out and you need bread in order to not die. Yeah, because you can't get it through other means. If they could have gotten that bread by going to another grocery store, they would already be doing that, but they can't because the proposed municipal grocery stores that Zoran is running on here would be opened in food deserts, i.e. places where people can't just go to a different grocery store, because the private industry of capital has deemed that not to be profitable enough in that particular area.
Grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or have.
Well, because they're being run by the city government, they don't have to be run at a profit. Because a government doesn't have to run at a profit.
To pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't just apply to corporations headquartered in New York City. Because when you say this, people will say, well, they're going to go to Florida.
Yes.
Wherever you are headquartered, as long as you do business in the state of New York, you are taxable for that.
I just want to do business in New York.
About corporations that are making millions.
Yeah. You know what a good sound business decision is? Ignoring one of the largest financial hubs in the entire world, and just don't do business there. Just don't do business in that place. Yeah, just ignore a market of millions of people. That's a savvy business decision.
Millions of dollars, not in revenue, but in profit. And the second is taxing the top 1% of New Yorkers. We're talking about people who make $1 million a year or more, taxing them just by a flat 2% tax increase.
You are a self-described
Good night,
democratic
Ashley.
socialist. Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality.
And we have to ensure
Based. Wow.
that we are unapologetic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right, or whether it is the end goal of seizing the means of production, where we do not have the same level of support at this very moment.
So just to be clear, seizing the means of production, that is the Communist Manifesto. That is communism. He just said it. He said it's not popular right now, but that's ultimately what we want.
Seizing is good usually.
Yes.
You
Seizing
take things from people, from the country. That's a good thing.
That's saying the quiet part out loud. Now
I'm pretty sure Steven Crowder regularly celebrates the seizing of like American territory from indigenous people as a good thing. So, like, I don't think his stance on this is based on principle.
Video was uploaded yesterday. It wasn't new from yesterday, but this is what this guy thinks.
Also, again, seizing the means of production can take a lot of different forms. One of those forms, by the way, can be workers buy the company from the founders. I imagine Steven Crowder wouldn't have any problems with a voluntary transfer, a voluntary sale, and I think that when they are trying to gesture at, hey, seizing the means of production, they're trying to do it like it's a scary thing when in fact it could just be as simple as Bernie Sanders' old proposal, which is that, hey, if you are a private company and you want to sell your company to another company, say a private equity firm, you actually have to offer your company to the workers at your company first. They have the right of first refusal, i.e. they can choose to band together and buy the company themselves and then collectively own it. And that, I think, is perfectly fair. People who are putting in their entire lives into working for a given company, they deserve compensation and representation. But I digress.
Just go back to the grocery store example really quickly and see how long does it take you to figure out that this won't work. I now have a business that's going to compete with every other business, except they don't have to make a profit, they don't pay taxes, and they don't pay rent. What do you think is going to happen to all of the other businesses that operate typically on one of the slimmest profit margins in industry? Probably about 4 or 5%.
That's the fucking point, man. The entire point is that the municipal government can operate just at cost. So they can open and run a business in places where private businesses wouldn't be able to. So that, the public can be served by the government The entire purpose is of that, but like he's fear-mongering here about the fact that municipal grocery stores are too good of an idea, and thus, because there's no profit motive in the government owning and operating municipal grocery stores, you know, the government will slowly supplant grocery stores to be run at not a profit and just to provide services to the, you know, public. And, you know, as we talk about this, that actually sounds good. That sounds good, though, actually. You know, if you have city-owned and operated grocery stores to make food available, that sounds pretty all right, actually. To provide cheaper food for people to eat, that sounds good. That doesn't even mean, by the way, that the companies making the food and providing the food aren't making profits. It just means that the distribution point isn't acting as a middleman and taking a share of the revenue for their own profit. But whatever.
Grocery stores are just going to go away. You remember the food desert thing?
Grocery stores are just going to go away, except for the ones that the city opens. You know, the city that you have elected representation in to help run. So, you know, the municipal grocery stores would just be too efficient and too cheap. And you don't want too efficient food. You don't want food that's both cheap and like not screwing you over. You guys need the intrinsic value of a board of directors squeezing profits out of you. You all need that. It's what adds flavor to your food. Sure, at some point we'll get some sawdust in your bread, but you know what? The true seasoning is what matters, and that's profits for the executive class.
That wasn't real? Guess what? The reality of those things may be coming to New York.
Yeah.
There are already food deserts in New York. These people watch videos of urban areas that are food deserts, and they're like, look at all these people eating junk food. And it's like they're eating junk food because there's not like a grocery store where they can get produce. They're eating junk food because it's the cheapest way to get calories in your body. And they have no other option. They can't go over to the Whole Foods because the closest thing to their house is a fucking gas station. That's like the closest they get to fresh produce.
They're not going to survive. You can't. Guess who's going to go out? Do you think the big chain grocery stores are going to be the first to go?
Oh, just think of the mom and pop grocers. Surely there's no solution to this. Like, I don't know, maybe the mom and pop grocers being like bought out and the mom and pops getting like a nice big chunk of change to go live their best lives, to be run as municipal grocery stores. No, clearly not. No way. The poor mom and pops will all be homeless, living in more food deserts in New York.
No, it's every mom and pop shop in New York will immediately have to go out of business or find something else to sell.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to compete.
When that city-owned grocery store runs out of Skippy and Jif, guess what? It's Peter Pan for you, douche.
Yep.
Oh no.
It is laughable as a native New Yorker that people suggest that West Side socialites and corporate traders are going to flee NYC over a couple of percentage points. These people do not understand NYC.
It's true. Also, Paladin, thank you for the $10 dono. Very much appreciated. But, see what he did there? He's like, yeah, man, you might not be able to in one of these municipal grocery stores. It might be a true socialist hellscape, the kind of hellscape where they might sell out of a product and then you'd have to buy a different product that serves the same purpose that's just a different brand. And that already happens now. If your grocery store runs out of something, you just have to buy a different brand of that thing. That happens now. We're not so removed from COVID that we can't remember when it was impossible to get toilet paper. That happened under capitalism, bro. Peter Pan, it's a brand of peanut butter. Sorry. He basically was like, if they run out of these two brands of peanut butter, you might have to buy a different brand of peanut butter. And it's like, oh, okay. The world will continue to spin.
Oh, Peter Pan's better.
And
no other options.
It's going to be riot season.
Yeah, that's the more serious
food riots.
consequence.
Yep. So New York State, by the way, has a high.
So their argument is municipal grocery stores would be more efficient, and because they don't have to operate with a profit, and therefore food riots will happen because people will be able to buy the food that they need, and that will create food riots somehow.
Highest tax burden of any state, to be clear. New York City is even worse. All right. So when he talks about these government-run grocery stores, like you said, it's like Obamacare. It's a way of driving all competition out of business. So
I can't take it anymore. I need my Jeff Chunky PP. Time to get my GAT. The food wars just suddenly turns into Mad Max up in there because they can't get the peanut butter they want. This is how conservatives think, though. It's like if I can't get my preferred brand and cut of Hormel bacon, I will go on a massacre rampage. It's just like that. That is how the conservative mind thinks, And like, it's a little scary that they are just willing to outright say, "Yeah, we're going to have like mass civil unrest and conflict because you have to try a different brand of peanut butter."
They have a monopoly that would be paid for by taxes, which already has a state that already has the highest tax burden. Those people are going to leave. He just told you, well, if you're headquartered anywhere else, if you do business in New York, look, you just gave the blueprint to businesses. They're not going to do business in New York. They're not going to.
They absolutely will, because I can't believe I have to explain this, but if the tax burden goes up by 2%, they're not going to just not do business because suddenly their profit margin went from 30% to 28%. Like that's still a 28% profit. Hell, even when you're using the example of these grocery stores that are operating on like a 5% margin of profit, even if you increase the taxes by 2%, that's still a 3% margin of profit. They are still covering all of their expenses and able to pay out to their ownership. God.
To do business in a dying city, in a dying state. And by the way, it's not just taxing corporations, because he went on to specify, and he said something he didn't need to say because he's racist. He said that part of paying for some of the policies like transportation includes, quote, shifting the tax burden to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. What?
Ooh.
He didn't need to say whiter.
He didn't.
You could have just said rich.
Hey, fun fact, folks. If the state of New York was a standalone independent nation, it would have the 8th largest economy in the world. It would have the 8th largest economy by itself in the world if it was its own country. And New York City is the biggest chunk of that. So when they're saying like, oh, it's dying, it's not. The city. Oh God. Just Manhattan alone has a GDP of like $780 billion. If just Manhattan was its own country, it would be the 22nd largest country by GDP on the planet. Just Manhattan, not even the rest of New York City. These people are out of their mind and completely detached from reality.
Richer in New York City, we all know what that means. No one's going like, Harlem.
That's a white. Those are white tax now.
Yeah.
Are half black, half white people going to get a half white tax?
Could be.
I don't know. He's talking about property.
There's literally again, they're just like sitting around trying to think of the most racist way to implement taxation for no reason, based on nothing that Zoran Mamdani said. They're just like, what if we had racist taxes, though? And honestly, they're probably going to warm up to that idea in like 5 minutes.
Property taxes. It could have just been richer neighborhoods. It would have taken care of no matter who's there, but he's saying wider neighborhoods. Kristen Welker asked him that question and did it in a softball kind of way. She's like, well, don't you think that maybe some people might think that you didn't need to say that? And he said, well, I'm just saying what is. I'm not really saying that I'm starting from that prescription. And she didn't put his feet to the fire like she would have absolutely done if any Republican had said anything about a poor neighborhood and accidentally said ethnic.
Yeah.
In that.
Well, that's because there are specifically white communities that were created as a result of explicitly white supremacist policymaking in this country. That's one of the reasons cities like New York have predominantly black areas. It's a remnant of redlining policies and Jim Crow, like
ethnicity. It doesn't matter what.
Well, here's why: because the media, they're far more offended at someone sitting across from them advocating.
No, it's because there's additional context that you guys consistently ignore.
For First and Second Amendment rights than they are someone advocating for communism. If it was a Hegseth or if it was a Vance saying, hey, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment really matters, or military, they would be
divorced first from his wife, then from reality.
They would be fact-checking, because that is more offensive to those in the media than a self-described Marxist advocating, by the way, for Marxism here in the United States. And
I love that he still hasn't made an argument against Marxism. It's just scary buzzword time.
Advocating for racial segregation effectively as a matter of policy.
No, he's advocating for taxation on wealthier neighborhoods. That's it.
That tells you how much you should despise the media. If someone in your social circle was okay with saying, yeah, by the way, we just need to tax people based on race more. If they're white, tax them more. And you had an entire group of people going like, oh okay, yeah, that's fine. And
he's not saying we need to tax all the white people more. He's saying that there are predominantly white neighborhoods in New York City that are disproportionately wealthy, and they should be taxed more because they're disproportionately wealthy. They live in neighborhoods that happen to be whiter. That's it. That because of the racism in the country, because of the history of that.
Lost their mind if they found out that you carried a gun? Would you still be friends with that? Of course not. You would realize you're not welcome. To the media, your point of view, you are not welcome. And then they want to blame you for their numbers cratering. Here's a funny post on X, actually. It was Germania Rodriguez Polio posted me, a Venezuelan, watching.
Also, do people know that it's legal you can legally own a gun in New York? Like it's they'd lose their mind if they knew you had a gun. You can literally do that.
Rich celebrities campaign for government-run grocery stores. So they can have government-run grocery stores and increase their taxes on white.
Hey, all I'm going to say here is you might have noticed that this particular tab popped up earlier in the segment. This is from the New Republic, March 24th. One way to fight rising food prices, public grocery stores. Other cities have already done this outside of New York City. That's so interesting. Let's take a look here. Here we go. As long as a city is willing to support the operation and potentially backfill losses for the first few years, it could be a lot cheaper than trying to entice a business to come to the community with large tax breaks, Malassi said. Chicago, for example, spent $10 million on tax breaks to entice a Whole Foods to open in the underserved South Side under former Mayor Rahm Emanuel, only to have it close after just 6 years. With a state-owned store, Malassi said, you might be able to break even and your community will be all the better for it. That's interesting. Let's take a look here. Let's keep going deeper into this, right? Yes. Chicago was supposed to lead the way by becoming the first big city in the country to open a publicly owned store this year, applying for money from a $20 million fund Illinois recently created to help start new grocery stores. Last August, a feasibility study found that it would only cost the city $2.7 million to open a new store on city-owned land and partner with an outside operator, and that such a store could earn an operating profit, albeit a small one. But in February, the city pivoted, saying it would instead open a public market that will sell staples and house spaces for local retailers and farmers to sell their products. The city wasn't able to find an experienced operator for the store to qualify for state funding, so it didn't apply. So basically, they changed their plan. But let's take a look here, because there are other ways to get these stores open. And it's almost like I prepared other tabs. City of Atlanta and to co-fund grocery stores in downtown Campbellton Plaza. This is from 2024. Let's see. According to a press release, the Invest Atlanta has approved $8.174 million to open the grocery stores in low food access neighborhoods. Locations offer affordable fresh produce, meats, meals, dairy products, etc. Awesome. Pew pew. So Atlanta's doing it. Hey, what about governing.com? Do you have anything to say about this? Oh my God. There we go. 40 million Americans live in food deserts. Can government-owned grocery stores fix this? Let's take a look. Chicago, a name that's coming up again. Let's see. Running independent grocery stores isn't an easy business for anybody. In 2010 to 2019, they found that Dollar Tree and Dollar General stores opened in a neighborhood. Independent grocery stores were more likely to close, and residents were more likely to be left without fresh produce options. Because literally Dollar Tree and Dollar General and dollar stores at large are the things actually coming into low-income neighborhoods and killing mom-and-pop grocery stores. But Steven Crowder won't talk about that because, again, he just doesn't care about this issue. Let's take a look. When the city of Erie, Kansas polled residents on whether it should buy a grocery store, most said yes. The city hired an experienced manager to run it and considered slightly raising residents' utility bills, if needed, to pay for any increases in store operating costs. But as noted earlier, the city was unable to make a go of it. The city can play a very important role in catalyzing the development of supermarkets, but has a lot of options on how to do that, and some pose more risks and challenges. Well, how about this one? The town-owned grocery store in Baldwin, Florida, ran into similar challenges. The 1,400-person town opened its market in 2019 after the local for-profit grocer closed. It was truly not for profit. The market operated at a loss. Because it was a single store, Baldwin Market couldn't buy wholesale, making it hard to sell groceries at competitive prices, and the store closed last March. But not every municipal grocery is doomed to failure. Not far from Erie, Kansas, St. Paul, Kansas, a city of 600 people, acquired its own store in 2013. The impetus for the project began decades earlier. The city lost its grocery store in 1985, leaving residents at the time with just a cafe and convenience store or a 34-mile round-trip journey to the nearest grocery. That changed in the mid-2000s when the city, local community development corporation, and rural electric cooperative collaborated to build a grocery store. Initially, the city owned just the property and building and recruited a husband-wife duo to purchase the inventory and manage the store. When that couple decided to retire in 2013, the city bought out other partners, making the supermarket fully government-owned, and hired new managers to run it. 6 years later, the St. Paul supermarket was bringing in a profit slightly above average for a rural grocery store. Because again, this is a valid way to solve food desert crises. And if a town of 600 people can do it, so can a city of millions. Like to say New York City simply can't accomplish what St. Paul, Kansas was able to accomplish, I think is insane and just disconnected from reality, frankly. But let's get back to this.
People, while the rest of the country sees reduced taxes and more affordable groceries, as we've seen with eggs and milk under Donald Trump. That's a good thing. It's not good for New York. So I'd advocate you guys just leave New York if you don't want to live in the hellscape that it's going to become. But having that contrast is going to be valuable for the country. Let's move on to the next one. There will be a contrast. And we have a direct apples to apples chart here. Mamdani's policies on crime. Just to be clear, spoiler alert, he's pro that.
I'm not going to be working alongside the Trump administration to build the single largest deportation force in American history. I'm going to actually represent each and every New Yorker, and that includes immigrant New Yorkers, and that means standing up for the laws of this city, like our sanctuary city policies, which have kept New Yorkers safe for decades.
Oftentimes, we've even found as legislators, when we go into these courts, the term violent crime is even used when people are stealing packages. Violent crime is even used when people are accused of burglary and they're
Wait, but that's not a violent crime. Someone coming up and taking a cardboard box off your doorstep, does it suck? Yeah. Is it violent? No.
Happens to be a housing unit in
Absolutely.
that same dwelling.
Yes.
So violence is an artificial construction. We have to be very clear that what is happening here with these district attorneys, that is violence. That is violence of the highest degree.
By the way, this guy really hates doors.
Yeah, there's no person that he's yelling at. Just a closed door.
Maybe it's the...
I mean, it's okay to mistake Tom Homan for a closed door. He is he shares many qualities with a door, basically made out of several planks of wood, incapable of understanding or feeling anything.
Molding?
He's a theater kid. Come on.
Just to be clear, yeah, he says stealing packages is considered violent.
Yeah, he's a theater kid. Not like anyone else on this show. Yeah, that's Zoran Mamdani. He's a real theater kid. And everyone who's a theater kid should be really, really ashamed of themselves and probably get divorced too. And, wildly overcompensate with like guns on their desk for years until they get, suddenly embarrassed about that. And so they put their gun away because they grew up a little bit. And then get involved in a real nasty divorce with the ex-wife, huh? That's what a real theater kid should do.
What's the forced part of forced entry, which is involved in most burglaries? They don't.
Well, wait, but we aren't talking. I'm sorry. Forced entry during a burglary. A burglary is definitionally done when no one is home. So again, damaged property is not violence. Violence is, attacking a person. And again, it's not surprising that the Louder with Crowder crew wouldn't understand the distinction.
Yeah. What happens?
Violence is when you use your muscles. Anytime you use your muscles for crime, that's a violence.
If I say don't do that.
Yes.
If I get in their way of burglarizing me,
then that's a violent crime. You little dingleberry. If you get in the way of a criminal doing a crime and they attack you, then it's violence. They are doing a like, how is this difficult?
And I say don't do that.
Well, they also don't want you to be able to own
stop?
firearms either. So you just have to take the burglary.
You can own firearms. I'm dying here.
Isn't violent because the policy forced you into taking it. I love it's a construct.
It's not violent if you are a bitch and you don't do anything.
It's not violence if you're a bitch. What is wrong with these men? Yeah, today I learned cardboard is people and deserves all of the same civil rights as people. It's really weird how the Louder with Crowder crew and conservatives in general care so much more about property rights than like human rights. It's a very interesting situation, What's wrong with these men? No fault divorce laws. Their wives were the only things keeping them tethered to reality. Oh, God. Folks, I'm using my precious time here on this earth to make fun of these people, and it's agony. But you know what? I do it for you. So like, comment, and subscribe, and also consider dropping those subs, donos, memberships, super chats, etc., so that I can pay my moving costs, because I need to be able to do that, and also continue to eat and not die. Logan Hill, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships over on YouTube. Very much appreciated. Thank you for greening up the joint over there. And if anyone else would like to help out, very much appreciated. And let's jump back into this, shall we?
About it.
Exactly. And by the way, quick fun fact, New York City is the worst city for package theft in the country. 2020.
Oh no, the violent package thefts. Wait, I just figured it out, guys. I just figured it out. Maybe the packages that are being stolen are from mailmen, from the mailmen packages. Like the I'm not articulating myself well. The packages, the colloquial meaning of package, maybe they're being stolen from the men. I don't know. Just spitballing here.
Before was $1 billion.
Thank you, Mr. Malachite. You understood the type of mail I was talking about.
I wonder if this guy encouraging it will decrease it.
Yes.
And oddly enough, we can't account for Steven Crowder's whereabouts during those package thefts. None of us can account for his whereabouts.
No. What happened? No. What he's saying is that it doesn't exist. He's trying to make it seem like New York is a less crime-ridden city.
Also, GamerG, I don't know why it didn't read out your $5 dono, but they're saying, don't get mugged, bro. Just lock in. You can't get mugged. Yeah, I mean, if you're strapped up, you can't get mugged, guys. If you're carrying heat, you can't get mugged. Shamaniacal the Shawnite, thank you for gifting a membership over on YouTube. Very much appreciated. Let's go.
Telling you, he would remove that from being considered a violent crime, breaking and entering, so burglary, theft.
Yeah. The crimes that don't involve attacking or threatening a human being are definitionally not violent. Like if you are threatening or directly harming another human being, or hell, even an animal, animal cruelty laws, etc., like then you are not doing violence. If you're just doing property damage, that's damage. It's not violence. They're two different categories.
So crime is down.
Just redefine stuff and stuff goes down.
Yeah, crime is down. It also wouldn't be included in revenue losses due to crime in the city. So revenue losses are gone. They were wiped. We just don't count the theft. You, the American worker.
What are you talking about?
The business owner, the bodega owner, the grocery store owner, someone who owns anything.
Okay, CW, I see your comment about his biceps, and all I have to say is I do think that Steven Crowder is essentially pulling some kind of George Michael from Arrested Development. And if you guys don't know what I mean, just there's a show called Arrested Development, and there's a part of the show involves him wearing a muscle suit that is essentially this. There you go. And I think that's what Steven Crowder's doing.
In your own apartment in New York, you're the one footing the bill in taxes and in stolen stuff, because that's a social construct. Another stat that's quite, and by the way, this comes from Bloomberg, not a bastion of conservatism. Right. This is the contrast. Okay, the U.S. average as far as violent crime rates, right? A lot of the metric being used is pre-COVID crime rates, because it skyrocketed and then kind of went down. In the United States, the violent crime rate is down 6.4%. as far as compared to pre-COVID levels. In New York City, it's still up 32.2% compared to pre-COVID levels.
Before or after sanctuary city policies?
Yeah, well, it's only, you see sanctuary city, boom, gets worse. But if you just don't count crime. So again, we have that contrast. The costs in the country at large going down. New York going up. The crime, U.S. at large, going down. New York going up.
Way up.
And he wants to double down on what has created the crap hole that is New York. Crime is going to continue going down.
I just, again, murder's down by like 25% in New York City. Like, Steven Crowder is like going nuts about this one, but like the violent crime in New York City is down. God, the number of shootings in the first 3 months of 2025 was the lowest since 1994. Come on, man.
Hello,
try a little better.
Jack. I would love to see you react to some of Alec Gunter's videos, just to get a different perspective. I have nothing against them personally, and I was curious on your thoughts. Less than 3.
I mean, I'd consider it. I have typically liked Alec Gunter's content, but thank you for the $10 super chat. I'll take a look and consider it.
In the United States, and with someone like this, it'll continue to go up. Costs are going to continue to go down in the United States, and there will continue to go up. I'm willing to bet that wages will continue to go up in the United States at large, and they'll go down in New York City when compared to the cost of living. I hate to say that New York
City rocks. Having ready access to like public transit, being able to go basically anywhere you want without a car, relatively affordable prices, considering, the wages in the city, good social services. And it's not perfect. It's far from that, but like it's pretty good, all things considered. And it's full of people who actually look out for each other and try,
kind of has to be the sacrificial lamb here.
Yeah.
But I almost think it would be better if this guy won and you can lay it at his feet, because New Yorkers.
Hell yeah, I agree. It would be better if he won.
You get what you have been asking for. Some other policies that he's pushing for, ending cash bail. He wants to have.
Oh no! No longer being kept in prison because you're poor. The horror.
To permit safe injection sites, which means doing drugs.
Oh no! People being able to, get the on-site care they need if there happens to be an overdose when they were gonna do drugs anyway, and then having ready access services to help them get off of drugs at very specific locations. Wait, oh no, the horror.
Drugs in front of your kids.
Yeah, pretty much.
He wants to decriminalize all drug.
You can't do you can't bring. I'm pretty sure you can't bring your kids to a safe injection site because they're people work there. Like, I don't think they can like legally allow you to bring your child in to do drugs with you. I'm just throwing that idea out there. Like, there are people who work at safe injection sites.
Possession. He wants to ban all guns and decriminalize all sex work, which is great for this.
I just, oh God, decriminalize sex work. Hell yeah. Repeal the walking while trans ban. Hell yeah. Legalize marijuana. Hell yeah. Restrict solitary confinement. Hell yeah. Enact elder parole. I don't know what that is. Reenfranchise incarcerated New Yorkers. Hell yeah. You served your time. You don't need to be like prohibited from voting. Decriminalize simple drug possession. Hell yeah. Repeal all mandatory minimum sentences. Hell yeah. Let the judge actually decide based on the merits of the case. Reduce maximum sentences with retroactive effect. Hell yeah. Repeal felony bump up statutes. Hell yeah. End cooperation with ICE. Hell yeah. Repeal sentencing enhancements. Hell yeah. And also, I haven't heard anything about him wanting to ban all guns. That seems like a crazy thing that I haven't heard him say at all. So
ban all guns and decriminalize all sex work, which is great for this guy. He's thrilled. Yeah.
Freak.
And then there's this fun one there. He said, "We don't need an investigation to know that the NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and..." What? This is one of the, okay, anti-queer and a major threat to public.
Yeah, anti-queer. They literally hunted gay people for sport in New York City. Like they would do night raids on like gay bars or like attack men sitting alone in parks after a certain hour. You know, they would police the clothing people wore in case they were too queer and too gay. Like, yeah, they were explicitly an anti-queer organization. The Stonewall riot didn't happen because the police are just super pro-gay.
Safety. Okay, hold on a second here.
Also, wait a minute. I'm noticing this tweet about banning all guns is from 2022, i.e. not one of his campaign promises.
Look, the racist thing is a trope, and by the way, you're more likely to be shot as an armed white person than an armed black person in this country. We have those stats, and you're far more likely to be shot as an officer by a black man than to shoot a black man. But I get it, right? It used to be like, okay, black people probably pulled over quite a bit more because some cops are racist. They might fit the criminal profile more as far as someone they're looking for. It used to be, but didn't just throw in anti-queer. It's just let's throw in any minority group. It used to be driving while black. Now it's driving while fag. I don't know how this...
So where I live, we spent years of the trial with decriminalized simple drug possession. It's done nothing but more chaos amongst the people who aren't using Fenty. Well, I mean, ideally, the reason you would decriminalize simple drug possession is because it's way more important and useful to spend the resources of the community to going after the distributors rather than people who are hooked on the drug. Because if you're going after the people who are hooked on the drugs, you're just like, they're one, not going to get unhooked, and B, like it's just playing whack-a-mole. You're not actually solving the underlying problem.
How can you tell? Is he? Giving each other road? What's going on? How do you know?
You just pull them over, go, what's the trendiest colored interior design?
Yeah, they go after both, but they go after both poorly when they could be spending their time and effort instead going after the actual root of the problem. You know, like, I don't know if anyone has ever done gardening here, but like, if you try and pull up like a whole clump of weeds, you know, it's really fucking hard to do that because that's a lot more things you're trying to pull up versus just you pull up the one main root of the weed, solves your entire problem right there. Takes a lot less effort, a lot easier, a lot more targeted, doesn't disrupt the flower bed quite as much.
House chic. That's it. You're going to the clink.
Why is the cop gay?
I don't know.
They're all gay.
You'll never stop drugs? Not with that attitude. Also, like, obviously the best way to handle this would be to decriminalize drugs and like regulate an industry.
They're just all.
So NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. That's what we need to do is hashtag defund the NYPD. Yes, they're notoriously anti-queer. Who can forget the brutal beating of the Central Park 5 sodomites? That's, I believe, what he is referring to.
Some of them liked it. It's okay.
They raided a YMCA. And to give you an idea, when he's talking about this, the crime and the costs, from 2020 to 2024, New York City lost an estimated 327,000 residents, meaning people are leaving, and he wants to double down on policy that will encourage them to leave. Hey, I'm okay. I'm here for it. By the way, we have more to get to. This guy is the hits just keep coming with him. Here is Mamdani's even more radical stance on social issues.
And one of the things that we've said beyond saying that we're going to make this a sanctuary city.
Yes, that is a
LGBTQIA plus workers, beyond saying that we're going to establish an office of LGBTQIA.
It's got Your Honor.
It's also that we're going to provide
Listen to this.
$5 million in funding for gender-affirming care, the same amount of funding that the federal government threatened to pull out from local providers for that kind of work. And in this moment especially, if we want to fight the Trump administration, we have to do so by fully funding our own services, taxing the wealthiest New Yorkers and corporations.
Okay, let's assume the false premise of it's only going to be people earning $1 million or more, which, by the way, in New York City doesn't make you as rich as you think. I mean, $1 million doesn't get you a 3-bedroom walk-up in New York, to be clear. Okay, you really, really hate people making $1 million or more a year. All right, fine. Don't you still kind of think it's a move to make them pay for surgeries?
Yeah.
No, because I believe in I believe medical science as opposed to, I don't know, the ramblings of a dipshit who doesn't know anything about science or healthcare. So I actually think it's a medically necessary intervention. But, you know, I suppose if you're a moron, you can convince yourself it's not.
Actually, isn't that still a little too far?
Sorry we can't fix the roads. Patricia wanted her removed.
Yes. Exactly.
It's not a move.
Right.
So
it's an inverted move.
Yes.
Split down the middle.
I was quoting.
That, you know, that reveals a little bit of advanced knowledge of like trans surgeries there, Stephen. Like you know a little bit too much about this, actually. Almost like you've been, I don't know, obsessed with us for a long time in a weird and slightly sexual way. You know, kind of like you've been chasing after us, in a sense.
So this gives you an idea how radical this guy is socially, because all of it has to be thrown into the same pot. These people have to be on the wrong side of every issue historically. They have to, because progress for the sake of progress leads to a clown show. In 2020, while running for state assembly, Mamdani wrote, "Our campaign is guided by feminist organizers committed to liberation for all and who acknowledge the added barriers WOC, working class, and trans women have to overcome." Wait, I thought you said feminists. What about trans women? Oh, you just act like the feminists, the longtime feminists who are opposed to men dressing up like women. You just act like they don't exist. Call them TERFs.
Oh God, yeah, because they're not feminists. They don't actually believe in feminism. They have a different ideology. That's why they have a different referential phrase.
Okay, got it. We need a feminism for all in NY, where violence, including police violence against women, is epidemic. You're actually much more likely to be shot, stabbed as a man, end up in prison as a man, where you will also experience violence.
Well, the trans women, they are men.
Right. I don't understand what he's saying.
And they are prone to violence. Not a scientific fact,
but I think he might be.
Do you understand how backwards you have to be to I don't know, just regurgitate the idea that yeah, I'm inherently violent. I can't be trusted. I might just haul off and punch somebody at a moment's notice. I'm also the most logical person in the room. You know, I'm not guided by my emotional instincts whatsoever, but if somebody crosses me, I will fuck them up with my fists and I will assert my dominance. But I'm also very logical, and therefore, I should run society. Yeah.
Be playing queer D chess, because he also tweeted in support of giving the COVID vax to all prostitutes.
Now I'm on board.
So he said,
not getting it before?
Sex workers of any gender or sexual orientation, just say sex workers, okay? We assume there are a few degenerates in there.
You don't need to listen.
We don't care, sex work. We're already not on board when you talk about giving free stuff to sex workers. But then you say COVID vax, and I look at the stats on myocarditis. I go, oh, maybe I am on board. That's just me. I'm a horrible person. So I said, sex workers of any gender or sexual orientation are now also eligible for vaccination, in addition to men, cis or trans, who have sex with cis or trans men or trans women and trans.
Why is he doing a lispy voice? Zoran doesn't have a lispy voice. Maybe Steven just really likes having a little bit of a lisp.
Non-binary and gender non-conforming New Yorkers.
Good Lord.
What? So he supports vaccines for sex workers, along with, by the way, every single booster available, which may explain why every New York hooker looks like this.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, so they're really gross. Like, what the hell? It is really weird.
I just got here. Is it just me? Or does the guy on the left look like he came from the Tim Pool cloning vat? Or cloning pool?
Uncle Gumbald, he does kind of look like that. Thank you for the $5 dono. And also, I just have to say, it's really weird being like a trans person and like seeing like the just unabashed hatred for like people like me. And it's weird. Like does I feel like I'm getting gaslit a little bit, but like trans people are just normal people. And people like Steven Crowder, I think, and this is my personal belief, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm a little bit off base here, but my personal take is that Steven Crowder puts us up on like a certain kind of pedestal to fetishize us, and in so doing, in his own mind, he needs to lash out and try and be like, no, I'm only obsessed with trans people because of how disgusting they are. And like he tries to like reverse the pedestal, like, but like it just doesn't work that way. I don't think you can hide like an unhealthy fixation like this and actually have it work, because any normal person who just saw that, if you have no previous exposure to Steven Crowder, your reaction to that should be something along the lines of, holy fuck, what is this hateful weirdo? And like he and his crew just go titter, 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 chuckle, chuckle, chuckle. Like it's a totally normal thing to do.
What do you call a podcaster who constantly provides false dilemmas? Tim Boole. Hee nerd joke.
Jazz Dog, thank you for the $5 dono. Very much appreciated. Thank you for supporting the show and making this broadcast possible.
No tax on
we can tell.
Man, the forced laughter in the studio is always really difficult to like, what a terrible time they must all be having. I just want to time this real quick. So 1944, okay? How long do they keep
Mike
the
from
fake
the
laughter
Humanist
going?
Report talks about how he was a horrible homophobe when he was still in the closet and running from the realization that he was gay. Anything you want to tell us, Steven?
I mean, Pluvius, that is a common trajectory. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Or not super chat, dono. Very much appreciated. So 1944, let's see how long the fake laughter lasts.
No tax on
we can tell.
That turned out far more disturbing than I thought it would.
Yeah.
It's 2 a.m. You get on the G train.
Insulting women for any sexuality. Doing effeminate voice and lisp. Could these chuckle fucks have any more divorced dads at Hooters energy?
Oh, God. Yes, sexually harassing divorced dads at Hooters. Paladin, thank you for the $10 dono. Very much appreciated. So we're currently, by the way, at 12 seconds of fake forced laughter.
Yes.
Not much better.
That's what you see.
Where's is it Berkowitz? Was it Berkowitz?
Yeah.
So we were at about 15, 16 seconds of awkward forced laughter for that bit.
Who was the guy who
David
took out...
Berkowitz?
No, Berkowitz was the guy that was the killer who talked to the dog. What's the name of the guy who was it Bernie Getz? Bernie Getz.
Oh, with the
Yeah, the guy who shot them. Where's Bernie Getz when you need him?
Well,
how did Mamdani make it?
I don't know.
So he thinks that his policies...
Not calling for...
Wait. The Bernhard Getz incident refers to a shooting that occurred on December 22nd, 1984 in a New York City subway, where Getz, a white man, shot 4 black youths who had approached him for money. He's asking, why can't someone shoot Zoran Mamdani?
For his death, by the way.
No, we're not.
That
We're not.
thing,
We're not.
the
We're not.
Photoshop.
Yeah. We're not calling for his death, by the way. Haha. That's, by the way, why this producer is always on the show these days. It's so that he can shout out there, We're not. We don't actually mean that. We're covering our asses legally.
We're just, I don't know. So Mamdani thinks that his policies will actually work.
We're not calling for him to be assassinated. We're just, I don't know.
Not only in New York, but for the rest of like even in places like Oklahoma, the whole country.
You're a proud democratic socialist. Do you think that is a platform that would work for other candidates running in other parts of the country?
Absolutely. I think ultimately this is a campaign about inequality. And you don't have to live in the most expensive city in the country to have experienced that inequality because it's a national issue. And what Americans coast to coast are looking for are people who will fight for them, not just believe in the things that resonate with their lives, but actually fight and deliver on those very things. And part of how we got to this point was through the endorsements of Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Bernie Sanders, who've been leading this fight against oligarchy across the country. And I think that in focusing on working people and their struggles, we also return back to what makes so many of us proud to be Democrats in the first place.
So let me be really clear. I've talked about this. Inequality is not a problem in and of itself. Poverty is.
Yeah, what's poverty? What creates poverty, Stephen? In a capitalistic system that prioritizes profit, what creates the poverty, Stephen?
Okay, poverty is a problem. And you see much more poverty in New York. You also see more inequality. Across the rest of the country, in rural areas, like you talk about, for example, Oklahoma or Texas.
Uh-huh. Because it's a nationwide issue.
You see far less inequality in those areas.
Yeah, because Jeff Bezos doesn't live in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, but actual American people do, and they call those places home. And they're being fucked over and having their wealth siphoned away from them by the Jeff Bezoses of the world, by the Elon Musks of the world. You know, Elon Musk rolls in, builds a data center in the middle of nowhere, and starts poisoning the air of the local towns around it. You know, that's what inequality leads to, Stephen.
To be clear, inequality is not the problem we need to address if we are lifting more people out of poverty. You can have more equality and have far more poverty, or you could have more inequality, but you can have rising wages. Right? Those are both options.
You could also, I don't know, tax the wealthy, because again, as Sam Cedar is very fond of throwing out there, all societies redistribute wealth. It is simply a question of who benefits most from that redistribution. And right now, the richest people in the world benefit the most from the current way we choose to distribute wealth in our society.
You can also have more inequality and you can have more poverty. That's what happens in New York City. But what they do is they prey on greed. And this is something that's very important, because when people say I'm a compassionate conservative, no, I think conservatism is already compassionate. I think that you work hard and you should be able to keep what you have earned.
That's not compassion. That's not what compassion is. That's actually greed. What you're describing is greed.
For your family. To be clear, the left, their version of compassion is preying on this inequality. So it doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter if you're better off. It's, hey, they have something you don't. It's basically
That's not what taxing the 1% is about. The 1% succeeds in our society because of the investments we have chosen to make as a society. As such, they should pay a greater share of the taxes than, say, Joe Schmo, who is struggling financially and has to worry about whether or not he's going to be able to afford food or rent that month.
Entire platform that campaigns on human covetousness, on human greed.
Yeah, that would be the campaign that is running on giving the biggest tax break in human history to the richest people to ever exist. That would be what you're describing, and that is the Republican Party and movement.
While gaslighting you into saying you're greedy for wanting to...
Yeah, he's basically looking at someone sitting on a pile of like someone who's locked off like a Costco during the zombie apocalypse, and the guy who is like locked down the Costco and is like shooting like people who are trying to get in for food, and like he's like, I'm the compassionate one here because I took all of this for my family, so that's real compassion. And you guys are all just greedy because you want the food I have and I'm shooting you over.
Keep what you've created, what you've earned.
Not my best analogy.
You're not greedy for wanting to take that person's stuff. Inequality is not the problem. It can be when we see the greatest wealth transfer, for example, in our lifetime during COVID to the big tech giants. Why? Because mom and pop grocery stores were locked down and shut down. Or is it, well, you can still go to Costco. You can still go to Walmart. Amazon made a killing. Right? The inequality is almost invariably exacerbated by big government policy. Too big to fail? That's a policy that demands inequality. If there's a policy that says you're not too big to fail, even though you're a private business, but you are because you're big enough, you have now just created inequality. Inequality.
Yeah, I don't think he understands what he's talking about at all.
In variable outcomes for the average American. Maybe this person tried something on their own, took a risk, and makes $80,000 a year. Maybe they make $50,000 a year. Maybe this person started and they were more successful and they now make $350,000 a year. That's not a problem if people have equal access to opportunity and more people are being lifted out of poverty.
Yeah, that involves a wealth transfer. Lifting people out of poverty inherently means a wealth transfer to the people in poverty. That involves lifting them up.
For example, inequality tends to grow, no matter what, in a nation.
Yeah, almost like capitalism concentrates wealth at the very top of society, and if you don't actually have a mechanism to redistribute that wealth to the people at the bottom of the society, that inequality just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and that means the rich keep getting richer and richer and richer and have more and more power that they can use to further exploit their workers, to worsen their conditions, to pay them less. You are describing the fundamental crisis within capitalism, Stephen.
That is successful, right? That just tends to be the natural trajectory of things because you have people who figure out how to take advantage of that system. And as that system gets bigger and government gets bigger, there tend to be more levers that those people can pull. There was inequality that did widen under Donald Trump, but for the first time, average wages went up in 3 years over $4,000. They only went up $1,000.
Average wages, Stephen. Whose wages went up, Stephen? Was it the working class? No!
Under Barack Obama. Now, inequality was widening under Barack Obama, and certainly
Stephen Cowarder is what happens when you watch A Christmas Carol in reverse.
Well, didn't you know that Tiny Tim was actually very greedy? And really, Ebenezer Scrooge at the beginning of A Christmas Carol was very big-hearted and very much in favor of compassion.
Under Biden, to be clear, wages went down $4,000 under Biden. So what's the bigger problem? That inequality tends to widen under George Bush, under Barack Obama, under Donald Trump, under Joe Biden, no matter what the policy is? Or would you rather address the issue of your wages? And part of that can be addressed by allowing you to keep more of your wages, as we see. They want
that you then have to pay more in rent, or like it gets squeezed out of you by inflation, by the increasing cost of goods, by the innumerable amount of different ways that you are, the cost of society is then placed upon you. The same way where the most recent budget bill that went through the Senate, like that is going to massively increase prices for health insurance in the state level marketplaces by like 3 or 4 times in some estimates. And it doesn't matter how good of a tax break you get if it's instantly wiped out by cost increases in a different aspect. Hey, Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 gifted tier 1 subs.
Want you to vote for them out of covetousness while accusing the people who've worked their ass off and want to keep it of being greedy. Now, this doesn't work with everyone. Not everyone is enamored with Mamdani, especially President Trump. Here's his post. He wrote, "It's finally happened. The Democrats have crossed the line. Zoran Mamdani, a 100% communist lunatic, has just won the Dem primary and is on his way to becoming mayor. We've had radical leftists before, but this is getting a little ridiculous. He looks terrible." People say, I would never say that. They said, this could be the end of my career. Not supposed to say it, but everyone says, he looks terrible, horrible. I say, don't say that. His voice is grating. He's not very smart. He's got AOC +3, dummies all backing him, and even our great Palestinian senator, crying Chuck Schumer, is groveling.
Hey, why is it funny to call Chuck Schumer a Palestinian? Explain the joke. Explain the joke. Because the joke seems to me that like you're he's a Palestinian. That's funny because he's Jewish. Like what is the joke? Because kind of just seems like it's racism. Like that seems like racism is the joke. Like that's it. Yeah, Trump uses an ethnicity as a slur. I don't know. Seems weird. Seems bad.
Over him. Yes, this is a big moment in the history of our country.
And when he saw the video that we have of Mamdani eating.
Do we have the video?
Yes, we do.
Roll it.
He said gross.
So the third hope.
Gross! That's what he wipes with.
You see how they eat the rice with their fingers, lick it as they do it, and then chuck it back into the bowl?
Let's go. Tell me, why is Palestine a part of your politics?
When you grow up as someone, especially in the third world, you have a very different understanding.
Yo, you could steal a fork. F you.
I've seen Slumdog Millionaire. They got them everywhere.
I order food.
The thing about this show is that Trump is such a buffoon that even conservatives can't resist doing the voice.
They can't. They can't. God, it's so weird. Also, can we just like take a moment to address the eating with his hands thing? It's so bizarre, right? House Republicans condemn Mamdani for eating with bare hands. Go back to the third world. And like this is the local news report. This is how you're reporting a news story. Like, man eats with his hands. He's being condemned with eating with his hands, but you're not going to stand up and condemn House Republicans for saying to a fellow like politician to go back to the third world. He's a US fucking citizen. Yeah. Civilized people in America don't eat like this. If you refuse to adopt Western customs, go back to the third world. Also, one minor prop to the writer of this piece. Eating with one's bare hands is not exclusive to developing regions, as this practice is also observed in countries like India and the Philippines. Many common American foods are also eaten with one's hands, including hamburgers, hot dogs, and ribs.
Trump eats pizza with a knife and fork. He calls himself a New Yorker.
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. And damn, Trump would eat pizza with a knife and fork. But like hamburgers, hot dog. Yeah, we eat hamburgers, hot dogs, and ribs. Does Brandon Gills in the house? Does he not eat ribs? Does he eat ribs with a knife and fork? Does he cut up his hot dogs and hamburgers? Like, damn.
Ooh, they come with 6 forks.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Fork? I don't know.
I actually wrote no utensils. They gave me extra utensils.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
He didn't grow up poor either. Let's just be
He's
really
a trust
clear
fund kid.
about this.
Even Chinese people are like, I would rather use 2 little stick.
2 stick.
Pizza. We eat pizza with our hands.
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Again, very, very much appreciated. But also some foods you eat with your hands. Like, I don't know. I've been to an Indian restaurant and I use naan bread to like eat some of the curry, like sumi. And I don't use a fucking knife and fork for the naan bread. I'm not a monster.
Then use my finger. That is disgusting.
What, your country you know have tree? Go take stick off tree.
Could be poop. Still you.
This is the same party, by the way, that told
Jesus Christ.
to sing happy birthday while washing your hands in COVID, right? And to sanitize your packages. And he's eating with his...
Well, wait a minute. The reason people were telling you to sing happy birthday while you wash your hands is so that you washed your hands an appropriate amount, Stephen.
I learned how to hold a pencil because I knew how to hold chopsticks before I held a pencil, and I'm as pasty as they come.
It's true. White people can, under the right conditions, learn how to manipulate chopsticks. It's true. It is a skill we've been known to be able to develop. Thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs, Sake Tanuki. God.
My Venezuelan brother-in-law eats arepas with his hands.
Hell yeah.
Hypers, they are so GGGGOOOODDDD.
Smelanie, thank you for the $5 dono. Also burritos. People eat burritos with their bare hands.
Wow, anyone listening to this unironically is a horrible person. Remember, the R stands for racist.
I mean...
Racist, sexist, Republican. These words are virtually interchangeable.
That was from a PragerU video. What about taco? Tacos sometimes also bare hands.
Hands in a bowl after just wiping them on his pants like an animal.
It's like a wet rice dish.
For no reason.
It's got rice and some meat and sauce on it. He's just putting his fingers in there and saying, vote.
Yeah, you wash your hands after you finish eating your food. Oh, and as I was saying, the reason they were telling you to sing happy birthday during COVID is because many people don't wash their hands long enough. It's not enough to just you can't just get your hands a little bit soggy and then take 2 seconds and then wash them again and you're done. You actually have to wash your hands, get in between your fingers. You know what they teach children? They teach children when they wash their hands to sing the ABCs, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You sing the entire goddamn alphabet. That's how long you should be washing your hands for in order to get them properly clean. Yeah, I better not ever see these men eating hot wings or fries, or I'm gonna lose it. Unironically, Harold, when I talk to you guys about how the different rates of people washing and hand washing, and only 60% of men in this country wash their hands at all when using a public bathroom, and there's part of the reason men don't wash their hands is because they're afraid of being perceived as gay. This is the exact demographic of man I'm talking about. These men don't wash their hands enough because they're afraid it might make them look gay in the office. This is the demographic I'm talking about. How is washing your hands gay? Because it shows that you care about hygiene, and hygiene is associated with the gays.
Wouldn't having disease on your hands and then eating with them cause you to get sicker and have a higher chance of death? Isn't that Cowarder's goal?
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. I mean, he is anti-vax, so I mean, I guess in a very strict sense, that is his goal.
I'm very familiar with West African food, and it's really common to eat jollof rice with bare hands or a bit of what's called puff bread. Same with Jamaica and rice and peas.
Is it pronounced jollof or yolof? Is the H is the J kind of like an H? Yolof or Y? But yeah, I've had that kind of rice before, and it's so fucking good.
We gays are very clean people.
It's true. You have to be clean if you're gay. Joe, thanks, CW. Paladin, thank you for the $5 dono. One-Eyed Heathen, thank you for the $5 super chat. Jollof rice is fucking awesome. Oh man, I found this totally unrelated. I found this Middle Eastern rice dish that I really want to make for my partner sometime. Let me pull it up real quick. It looks so tasty. Yeah, it's Persian tadig rice. It looks really, really good, and I can't wait to make it. It incorporates saffron and stuff. I'm really excited.
Vote for me.
The old way of doing things is not always the best way, just to be clear. Sometimes, sure, you need to respect traditions, and sometimes you go, it's a good thing we have forks.
Yeah, or a spoon,
Yeah, CW knows what I'm talking about.
You can go with a spork if you're...
Toddy? All right, hell yeah. Thank you for understanding what I meant.
Crazy.
Which, by the way, it doesn't really take that much ingenuity to look at food, realize that your hands are getting sticky. Cavemen used a rock. They were like, hands gross, rock, clean.
It would be more sanitary and would look less off-putting if he just put his face in there like a dog.
Yes, yeah.
Just that would be way better.
Yeah, like a clown being pied.
Yeah.
Horizontal.
Yes.
It'd be fine. I'd be less grossed out. I don't like them. That's the point.
Neither.
And by the way, I'm not the only one. You even have Democrats who are going I think we're going.
Man, they're really obsessed with Zoran putting things in his mouth to a degree that, again, I'm finding creepy and sexual.
A little too far. And then, of course, all the DNC, they go shut up. So Chicago mayor, former Chicago mayor, and Obama advisor, chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, and professional shower poker. He came out and he said, my party's future isn't.
You know, Stephen, could you really make professional shower poking jokes when you literally have ex-employees on the record talking about how you shoved your dick in their faces and touched your genitals to their faces? You know? Like Steven Crowder had a whole scandal like 2-3 years ago about how he was rubbing his balls on other men's faces in the office. Like, come on, man. You don't have the higher ground here.
Did Steven just call for the invasion of Iraq?
Oh, Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. Very much appreciated. And he can invade that rock as much as he wants.
Isn't Mamdani's New York. We won't realize the American dream by consulting the Democratic Socialist of America's playbook. Why do you think a Democrat like Rahm Emanuel is sounding the alarm bells? And people like James Carville, people who, you know, have actually won.
What? Why? He literally just touched his balls on employees because he thought it was funny. Or, you know, for other reasons one might speculate about.
Elections have actually helped to win elections. Whether you agree with them or not, they are effective. I think we're seeing the disconnect between clickbait and X and social media. It can become real life, but to be clear, it doesn't always reflect real life. And if you look at Reddit, for example, if you were to go on Reddit and read Reddit politics and look at the comments, you would think that everyone in this country is a democratic socialist. And certainly everyone is.
Hell yeah. Based.
Democrat Party. Now, the little trick they pull on Reddit is they say it's politics and all voices are welcome. They ban you if you're a conservative, to be clear. And they certainly ban you if you're a Trump supporter. The moderators are basically Gestapo. So you would think that. Then you go out in the real world and you realize that even with Democrats, and certainly people who were like Hispanic Democrats, Black Democrats, they're not on board with all of this. And certainly not the gender bending fiasco. It's been a fiasco for them.
Yeah.
But they're able to create a viral.
Yeah. You know, all the gender bending that people hate. They just hate it so much. That's why Steven Crowder's had to incorporate so much gender bending into his own show.
Campaign.
Historically.
And they're able to win a primary. And then the people who have to vote.
Yeah, genuinely, why do people keep giving James Carville the time of day? He hasn't led a victory in an election since like the 90s.
Democrat, because they're New Yorkers, this is what they're left with. But I think you're seeing a real disconnect from real life and social media.
Is that like airbending? It's even more difficult. Only the Avatar can gender bend. That's why in one, he was, the Avatar was Aang or Ong. I haven't watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, but then I do know in the next one, the Avatar was a lady. So clearly the Avatar is the only one that can master gender bending.
And I think that those who are sounding those alarm bells are saying this isn't going to win. And even if this wins in New York City, it's going to be catastrophic historically, and it's going to lose us our national platform. And so I hope they continue to do it.
Yeah.
I want to see more AOCs. I want to see more Bernies. I want to see more.
Hell yeah. Welcome to the revolution, Stephen. It's true. Republicans should all throw elections and just give socialists control over the entire country. You're right. That would really show us a thing or two.
More guys like Mamdani. First off, because they only get elected in these radically left districts who get exactly what they deserve. And it's really good to have real life in real time cautionary tales so America knows what to avoid.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, in fact, let's just a cautionary tale across the entirety of America. You know, we'll get free train travel. We'll get better infrastructure. We'll get more parks. We'll get, grocery stores, municipal grocery stores and food deserts. We'll get guaranteed jobs programs. We'll get like housing for the homeless. We'll get safe life-saving care for drug addicts. We'll be able to do so many things. That'll really show
Forks
everyone.
weren't commonly used in Europe until after the 17th century. They were seen as Islamic and an affront to God.
It's true. Thank you for the $5 dono, Pluvius.
Yeah.
I want to see more of it too. I want to see AOC eating that rice with her big long fingers. Ooh, better yet.
Again, when I say these men are freaks, this is what I mean, right? Like, with her big long fingers. What? That's not That's not a stereotype that people have of AOC. That sounds like a weird fixation you have. So it's like, this is like when Quentin Tarantino probably like had that lady take off her shoes in Dusk Till Dawn. You all know the scene I'm talking about. Very clearly it got weird on set that day. And I feel like we're having a similar situation play out here about fingers.
Yet one of those things they put on the horse to eat.
Feedback.
You're not disproving my point, guy. Yeah. We'll put a kinky muzzle, and that will help eating. Jesus Christ.
Feedback. That kind of sounds perverted.
Yeah,
it's not.
Yeah, I might have gone a bit too far. I did talk about my hand fetish and my desire to have a partner who straps on a feed bag. You guys aren't going to make fun of me after this, right?
Well, I've sucked on a couple feed bags, if you know what I mean.
She's been eating with her fingers. She's one of
No, none of us know what you mean by that, actually. What does it mean to suck on a couple feed bags? That's either a non sequitur or it's exponentially more disgusting.
those horse poop bags too.
Oh, yes.
So I won't lie. Sometimes I see those and I'm jealous. I'm like, he can just go whenever he wants.
Joe Biden had it all.
Yeah.
Well, look, too, I want to make sure that you...
Oh, sorry. I wanted to just, and then I want you to keep that point. But this is important because you need to know, here's how you know that it's unpopular. Because the baseline position that helped win Donald Trump the presidency is, okay, we all agree that America's big cities are failing, right? And everyone goes, right. Do you have a solution? In other words, we don't agree about that. I don't agree that was Donald Trump's primary proposition to the American people. The contention was not with the premise of America's cities are failing. Everyone knows that's the case.
No, that's not the case. They're the biggest hubs of economic activity in the country.
Across America, no one thinks that New York is a success story. No one thinks that Detroit is.
It is like unambiguously. New York City is one of the biggest economies in the world, man. It has like 30-year lows in crime.
Is a success story. No one thinks San Francisco, Los Angeles. No one looks to those cities and goes, okay, we should do more of that. So he campaigned.
It literally, there are tons of places that do.
On criticizing, knowing it was a populist issue, the failing cities, big cities of America.
And so I say to the people of New York, with crime at record levels, with terrorists and criminals pouring in.
Gavin Newsom and Kamala, I'd almost say Kamala more so. She destroyed San Francisco and she destroyed the state.
I look outside, I look at the streets, it's so different from when I left New York. It's so different. It's dirty and it's crime-ridden. And today you walk down the street and you get mugged or you get shot.
Within the span of a few decades, Los Angeles has gone from being...
I mean, it's interesting that all of the clips to back up their points that everyone knew big cities were failing are all just one guy talking about it.
One of the cleanest, safest, and most beautiful cities on earth to being a trash heap.
One guy talking about it who did not win the votes of those cities.
Entire neighborhoods under the control of transnational gangs and criminal networks.
Gangs.
I look at Chicago. I mean, you got a really bad governor in Chicago and a bad mayor. But the governor's probably the worst in the country, Pritzker. But I look at how that city has been overrun by criminals.
And here's the thing. You're never going, or you're very unlikely to win New York City.
I mean, look, I'm not saying that like cities don't have issues, but like to say that they are failing, when these people talk about them failing, they're not talking about like liberal capitalist leaning management. You know, they are trying to say like what they said about Minneapolis in the aftermath of like the George Floyd protests. They're trying to say that like, oh, you know, Minneapolis got burned to the ground. LA and Portland got burned to the ground. New York City is basically what you saw in the movie Escape from New York. It's real. Like that's what they're trying to peddle when they say like the cities are failing. So I agree with you. Tons of liberal policies that are very bad being implemented in cities, and we could do a lot better. It's just they're not failing the way that these guys think they are.
But what you saw as far as a really big shift, and a lot of people haven't spent enough time on it, was the popular vote. Right? Donald Trump obviously had an a landslide, if you want to argue. Okay, he had a significant win with the Electoral College, but he won the popular vote. So even if more people leave New York City, the people who are leaving New York City are going to be leaving with in the back of their head, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And that's what led to, in 2024, the biggest swing.
Man, what is their talking point even going to be when New York City like just kind of levels out population-wise?
Toward Donald Trump, urban voters. Doesn't mean he won them, but he won them by such a he lost them while still gaining a significantly higher margin, such a significantly higher margin in 2024 that he won the popular vote. That was a big contributor. That wouldn't have been a big contributor if they didn't go so far left.
Also, can we just like take a look? Well, everyone's fleeing from New York City. That's why, it's grown steadily year over year for the last 5 years. In 2021, the population, in 2022, the population was 18.8 million. In 2025, the population was 19.1 million. So it grew by like 300,000 people. Cool. Awesome.
They've now had what they've asked for. They go, oof, I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
Sort of like COVID. COVID, the reason you saw so many people turn on the Democrat Party is they said, give unto us a king. How many people do you know who said, oh, yeah, I was afraid and I thought we needed lockdowns. I was afraid and I thought we needed to, stop the spread at that point, right? Remember, stop the curve.
Yeah, exactly. The people who moved away had the money to move away and move back. Many of them did. It was just a temporary situation.
Then I realized I was lied to. People need to realize they've been lied to sometimes.
It was me.
Yeah?
Yeah. You hear that, Steven Crowder audience? Some people need to realize they've been lied to. They need to wake up. They need to realize they've been fed a steady stream of misinformation designed to mislead them and, backed by conservative special interests. Some people need to realize that. Just spitballing here.
That's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Because you think it won't get that bad until you see neighbors ratting out neighbors and you see people losing their livelihoods because of policy that we now know is not based on science. So the urban voting swing in 2024.
When we were lied to about masks and 6 feet distance? How were we lied to about masks and 6 feet of distance? I'm dying to know. Yeah, speaking of landslide, Mamdani 12 points over Cuomo. Yeah, I think it only got to like the third round of like ranked choice or fourth round. It didn't even have to go through all 7 before. Like if we got through all of the ranked choice, like Mamdani won by like a colossal landslide. There's no other way of in the second round, even better. Yeah, there's no way Cuomo and Adams are going to be able to hash it.
Core urban votes swung to Donald Trump by 8 points. Other urban areas, 5.8 points. There was still an increase as far as the swing to Donald Trump, but in the suburbs, it was about 4.5%.
By the way, Zoran Mamdani won all of these areas.
0.5%. Rural, it was about 3.7%.
Oh, minus the rural areas, because there's not really a rural area in New York City. There are suburban areas, though.
Those are areas that he typically has already won. Republicans win.
Did better.
And he did better in those areas, but he won a huge number of new votes in urban areas. And you don't need that many.
The 6 feet thing wasn't based on medical studies showing effectiveness because there was none. I mean, but you said they lied about masks. Like the entire point of wearing masks and why medical doctors have worn masks and why populations in other countries that have been affected by airborne pandemics have in the past worn masks is because the mask absorbs the water droplets you breathe out. You weren't talking about 6 feet. You said we were lied to about masks and 6 feet distance. You said both things. Also, yeah, masks and 6 feet. Yeah, You included masks in there. I'm saying like masks aren't bullshit. They prevent airborne spread of diseases that rely on moisture to like propagate. And the other part of it is, yeah, if you have people who are spreading an airborne disease, you want to ensure there's a certain amount of space between people. to limit the spread of that airborne contagion, especially when you don't necessarily have effective treatments for it yet. Like, yeah, okay, there's no study explicitly on 6 feet, but like 5 feet, 4 feet, probably 6 feet is about as big of an amount of space as you can get feasibly in most areas. That's probably like a decent rule of thumb rule. Like, you can say, oh, well, they didn't have studies on it. They didn't have time to go and do a study on it. And like, I don't know, if the worst thing that happened to you in a day was that you had to stand 6 feet away from somebody while wearing a mask, that probably beats, you know, like getting COVID. That it's probably fine. That's not like that big of an opportunity cost. I'm sorry. How did standing 6 feet away from somebody in a line in a store ruin your life? How did it meaningfully harm your quality of life to help ensure the safety of yourself and other people around you? Like, damn, they lied about the masks and 6 feet. They didn't lie. More space allows for less opportunity of transmission. It didn't make anything safer, though. That's the lie. That's just not true. Like, if you understand the basic mechanism of like spreading an illness, you know that's not true. Do you understand how airborne particles work? Do you? Do you understand the concept of distance? Do you understand the concept of masking? Yeah. Do you understand how viruses travel from one person to another? Jesus Christ. You said they lied about masking and distance. Do you understand how those two things are related to stopping the spread of an airborne disease? And 6 feet didn't help? I think you're being dumb on purpose. I'm going to stop paying attention to you now, but if I look back at chat and you're still being dumb on purpose, I'm going to ban you. I reject the idea that you are as stupid as you are portraying yourself.
To maintain this popular vote. What if that goes to core urban votes, a swing from 2020 to the next, to Republicans, plus 10, plus 12%? The Democrats would never win.
You're right. Surgical masks don't filter out particles that small. They filter out the water droplets that are used to carry those particles. You stupid, stupid person. Yes, you are being dumb right now by not understanding the concept. I thought respectful debate was allowed. You're being stupid on purpose. Yes, name calling. You are a stupid, small-brained, pathetic individual. Yes. Does it make you feel better to call someone stupid? It's a bit cathartic, yeah. I think you are a very unintelligent individual if you can't understand the basic concept of a water particle connecting with a mask and that stopping the transmission of that particle from point A to point B. I think that you not understanding something that a literal 4-year-old could understand, you know, someone who might still struggle with the concept of like blocks, like a square block goes in the square hole, circular block goes in the circle hole. Like, I think if someone who can understand that concept is capable of engaging with the mask idea, you should be able to understand it too. But, you know, I guess I make that assumption by the virtue of you being able to get to the internet and use it and string words together. But maybe that's too generous. There are certain types of brain damage, after all, unaccounted for by modern medical science.
In the popular vote ever again. In New York, from 2020 to 2024, the swing toward Donald Trump was 10 points. Jeez. He gained by 10 points. In New York City, he gained by 16 points. He went up 16 points in the election. Doesn't mean that he won New York City, but he gained 16. That's a huge city. In California, he went up by 9 points from 2020 to 2024. San Francisco, the bluest of the blue, he gained 8 points in 4 years. Mm-hmm. Illinois, the state at large, 6 points. Okay, but when you consider that Illinois is basically Chicago and cornfields, Chicago itself by 9 points. And so we don't need really a new plan. We have the blueprint.
Yes, rat negative. I'm aware of how fucking masks work. I also lived through COVID. You don't have to explain the concept of a fucking mask to me. I understand how they work. I'm also not saying if you're wearing a small cotton mask that's not an N95, that it's going to stop all the transmission. The entire point of what I was talking about is that a mask reduces the transmission and distance reduces that transmission further. Now, the degree to which those reduce transmission, that's up in the air, debatable. It's still useful. God damn it.
The droplet size and travel we knew at the time. N95 masks and social distancing reduced transmission rates.
Like, if you're going to at me during the show, I would appreciate if you assume that I have some basic knowledge about what I'm talking about. God damn it.
Let the left do exactly what it is we know they're going to do in these big cities and do the opposite nationally. And since, we all know that leftists, that Democrats are very covetous, as you can see by tax policy, people in Chicago, people in New York, people in Los Angeles are going to look to the rest of the country and go, but I want that. Great. Let them see what it is that they want that they can't have because of what they voted for, and we'll continue making these swings. Don't interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. Mamdani, I think he should be the poster child. He's pro-crime. He's pro every single quote unquote woke social policy. He's
so true. I remember when Zoran Mamdani looked into the camera and said, I want more crime to happen in my city. I love crime. I'm the first pro-crime mayor.
Pro increasing taxes. He's an actual communist, and he will fight Trump at every turn. So he will fight the decrease in inflation that we see throughout the country at every turn. He will fight the increase in wages, which you undoubtedly will see, calling it now, everywhere else across the country while his wages go down in his city. He will fight Donald Trump's agenda, which will lead to continuing, decreasing crime stats while it goes up in his city. And at a certain point, selfish people in big cities are going to go, you know what? This just isn't working, and it's bad. And when they think this isn't working and it is...
Wait, I thought selfish people were responsible for pushing these policies. I thought the true selfishness and greed was the point. I thought that you literally spent like 20 minutes talking about that concept. God damn it.
Isn't bad. This is bad. Wouldn't it be nice to have a face to go with their name? Mamdani.
The name you know.
Yes. And sorry, you had a point. I just want to get those stats.
He's doing a lot of criticism for somebody who supposedly wants Mamdani. My thought is if you really wanted this, you'd do everything you could to empower him.
Indeed. Why isn't Steven Crowder knocking on doors for Mamdani? Well, I want to see the Crowder folks, the Ladder with Crowder people, putting on their walking shoes and campaigning for Zoran Mamdani. That'd be great. Let's go. Put your money where your mouth is, Crowder.
I think you're 100% right. I hope that he's able to, if he wins, obviously we'd like somebody else to win and avoid this catastrophe. But if he does, the silver lining is this. Well, I mean, yes and no, right? I understand that point, but at the same time, I want...
Yeah, I saw Zoran Mamdani waving the trans flag. It was great. I think there was he posted some pride photos of him walking with out gay New Yorkers, and there was a photo of him with a trans person. It was really, really sweet.
This to be so good. I want Trump's economy and his plan to work so well that it makes people like this irrelevant in the first place. We've got AOC and Bernie Sanders that are really going out there and just kind of throwing their lot in full socialism, not even worrying about hiding it anymore. So is this guy seizing the means of production. What do you think that means? What do you think that looks?
Yeah, what do you guys think that means? What do these guys think that looks like?
Looks like practically. This isn't a fight against oligarchy. Don't get this twisted. It's a fight against free markets and freedom.
Yes.
They don't want people to have freedom and self-reliance.
Yeah, the freedom to be an oligarch. The things these guys love.
And accountability. They want people to be dependent on the government and have the government decide winners and losers from now until eternity.
Yeah. I think a government being able to decide how wealth is redistributed when that government is democratic is preferable to a bunch of rich assholes who got rich off of Amazon and Facebook being able to decide who the winners and losers are.
So in the short term, if he gets elected, he will make their lives better for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then the consequences will start kicking in very, very quickly. And Trump has to be so good that it just makes this look like the absolute worst decision any city has ever made, and they don't even come close to anybody like AOC and Bernie Sanders ever again. It has to be so definitive that we kill socialism as early as possible.
Yeah, but let it go on a little longer. Let it go on a little longer in New York City.
I get it.
Let them live with it.
Yeah.
Let them wallow in their own filth.
It's like when you see your kid on the jungle gym doing something you know he can't do, but he insists on doing it over and over and over again. You're like, all right, fine. Try the rock wall, stupid.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah, then they had to go in and
the ground's padded. Try the rock wall.
Yeah, they had to pad the ground like pussies. That's what they do in the city, so the kids don't get to actually learn the error of thetheir ways.
Well, maybe New Yorkers, like the actual people that come out for the general election for this race and not just the primary, maybe they'll go like, we maybe made a mistake. Like maybe this guy's policies are too radical and we just weren't paying attention, because the fraction of the voting base that voted for this, you've got Democrats coming out. Like mainline Democrats don't support this vocally. They support a candidate that's popular, period. That's what they always do. Right. But they don't necessarily support the policies. This is the far wing of the party right now, and it's fracturing the Democrats because they're like, hey, maybe we can get some votes. I don't support those policies, but maybe.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're strong enough in condemning it with their language.
Yeah. Eric Adams hit back at him, though.
Oh, did he? Do we have a clip?
So, it's not a
it's a
clip.
post.
Initially, there was that 50 Cent post where he said that he'd send him the plane, the first class plane.
$258,750. I'm not sure why.
Wait. I don't understand what you guys just said.
Okay, so first off, 50 Cent said, where did he come from? Whose friend is this? I'm not feeling this plan. No, I'll give him $258,750 and a first-class one-way ticket away from New York. I'm telling Trump what he said, too. And Eric Adams responded to that. He said, hey, 50 Cent, make it a one-way ticket to Fantasyland. He'll fit right in. It's the only...
Jesus Christ, what a bunch of clowns.
place rent is optional, vibes are currency, and your parents still cover your deductible.
Ah, that's nice.
Damn.
It's already a little
good from Eric Adams. Yeah.
He's gonna get trounced though.
Yeah, but he courted these people too. I mean, Black Lives Matter. It's all this amalgamate of socialism and Marxism. I mean, you can't.
The amalgamate of socialism and Marxism. What does that mean, Stephen? I would love you to break down what you mean by that phrase, because I doubt you can.
You can't throw your lot in with Black Lives Matter, who seek the destruction of the nuclear family because it's a byproduct of Western civilization, oppression, and patriarchy, and then go, I can't believe how radical this guy is. Well, you built him. Yeah. You built him. Elizabeth Warren, you built this guy. Kamala Harris, sex change operations, taxpayer funded. Well, where did we hear that before?
You're a role model.
Hell yeah. Based Kamala Harris.
Every single day because I used to unironically watch Steven Crowder, and now I pay my penance to the Riverboat Club for my teenage stupidity. I need a good punishment, chat.
Thank you for the $5 donos, Melanie. Very much appreciated. And you are forgiven for your sins.
This guy.
Yeah.
It looks up to you. What did they do? Let me try to make it more.
I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you. Oh, you're still here? And you're still watching?
Oh, thank God it's done. Thank God. I thought we were getting close. Holy shit. Yeah, so that's that, just a 40-minute long crash out about Zohran Mamdani. Some excellent content there. Yeah, no, I don't think any of these conservatives know what the hell they're talking about. Anytime they talk about socialism, communism, etc., I don't think they actually know what those terms mean or what those policy prescriptions mean. They just hear taxes on the wealthy and they go into a blind rage and will say anything and everything to try and attack their opponents. That's just it, full stop,
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, gaming, plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.